Good morning. Looking at a classic EP, or actually two EPs by Alice in Chains. This I picked up for 50 cents. Often the ones that, albums I really like, and I can actually remember specifically finding it in the shop in the day. It was probably about a year and a half ago. And this is the double EP. Now, obviously they were recorded and released separately. There were about 2 or 3 years in between them, but for whatever reason, their record label outside of the US decided to release them together. So kind of like re-release SAP and bundle it together with Jar of Flies. So yes, it's the Jar of Flies EP from 1994 and the SAP EP from 1992 by Alice in Chains. Um, and why they chose to do that, I assume because Jar of Flies was wildly successful, much more successful than the band, or I would assume the record label assumed it would be. So by this stage, where Alice in Chains had released Facelift and Dirt. So that was it 90, with Facelift was 1990 and Dirt was 92. And in between though, between Facelift and Dirt, they released the EP of Sap, and then after Dirt, and before the self-titled album, they released Jar of Flies. And the reason why I say the success was surprised because it was an EP, and it was the first EP ever in the US to go to number one in the Billboard charts. So that's a pretty big achievement. And the other reason was somewhat, no, not really, because they had done the sound in SAP as well. But it wasn't Dirt. If we consider Dirt their big breakthrough, the I think it's like 5 times platinum in the US, and it was top 10 in the albums. But it was obviously the sound of that is a hard rock, almost, and going into elements of metal slash grunge band. You're hearing songs like Wood and Them Bones and things like that. They're pretty, hard rock songs. And Jar of Flies is, for all intents and purposes, an acoustic album recorded without much electric guitar and not like big drums or anything. It's pretty subdued. So it was not the Alice in Chains sound that had made them popular with Dirt and that they'd been touring for the last however many years before that. Because I don't think many fans had, at least their new fans had listened to Sap. But yeah, it was really, really popular. They came back from what I've read about it. They came back from the Lollapalooza tour and they just went into the studio and they wanted to record something together with Mike Inez because Mike Starr had been booted from the band and they hadn't recorded at that stage yet with Mike Inez. And so they wanted to kind of see what the chemistry was like, and they went in a few days. I think it was like a week or two. They recorded Jar of Flies. Now this CD, you see it's from 94, 95. You can see from the kind of the condition of the plastic, still got the sticker on it. This kind of 2 CD format of at least the jewel case I'm talking about was common in the 90s, where they moved away from the double CDs, which was literally 2 CDs stuck together, like was a fatter case. This one here, you flip it over from the outside edge and the hinges on the inside edge, which is after this they reversed it and put the hinge on the outside and you pulled it from the inside edge. But the problem with this, you'll see when I pull this back over, kind of this, the teeth here, it literally has one tooth, and this isn't broken. These aren't broken off. At least I don't think they are. Maybe they are. Actually, maybe I'm completely wrong. I am wrong. I am wrong. I can see now they're broken off. Okay, well, my issue there is that they break easily, and even because the reason I know this is because my brother owned this exact double EP at the time in the mid 90s. And I remember the same thing. It would the CD that was held in the back would never be sitting securely. It would always be falling out because the teeth on the back of the jewel case were not good. And I was going to say the same thing here, and then I realized it's just they've all broken off. And I was going to say they manufactured it like this. Oh, what an idiot! But anyway, okay. I guess my point is kind of taken away there. But point remains that it wasn't a very secure way of storing the CD. Those reverse teeth, even when intact, weren't great at holding the CD in place. So you see there, in the US, they released these separately. They didn't have the bundled version of Gyroflies and Sap. But you can see here, even on the CD, they acknowledge that it is a bundled version. It's a specific issuing. So it's not just the Gyroflies EP, it's the Gyroflies Sap EP. That's how it was referred to in New Zealand and Australia, and also I think in Europe and the UK, same thing. Booklet is pretty good. It's about what you would expect for a 1994 release. A little bit sticky there. Looks like it has actually been a bit water damaged. What is with these things being water damaged? Anyway, okay, this one's going to be very, It's not great, is it? But anyway, I say before, I'm not that worried. As long as the cover art is clear and the CD is playable, then for 50 cents, I accept that. Things aren't going to be perfect. See some imagery of flies, because yes, Jar of Flies is what the album is called. And there they are with Mike Inez, the replacement for Mike Starr. So I haven't really talked about the music yet. They're both amazing EPs. Some of their best work, in my opinion. They do that kind of music, that kind of acoustic, I don't know how else you would call it. It's almost kind of got classic rock elements in it. Jangle pop, I saw is a term used to describe it. I don't know if I agree with that, because jangle pop is more like what, like the Smiths or something like that. I'm sure shit doesn't sound like the Smiths, but the lineup for Jar of Flies: Rotten Apple, Nutshell. Obviously, Nutshell is kind of almost more well known in the Unplugged set because that was released as a video separately. At least it was here. The singles: I Stay Away, No Excuses. No Excuses, up there in my top 5 favorite Alice in Chains song, which is saying a lot because I love Alice in Chains and they've got a lot of great songs. But that song, it's a Jerry Cantrell song, as in he wrote the lyrics and the music for it. It's the harmony, particularly in the second verse. The second verse is the one. It's had a bad day, had a bad. What's that one? Breaking rocks, my hands are bruised. And then there's the last line of that where they harmonize Jerry Cantrell and Lane Staley, and it gives me like goosebumps every time I listen to it. So go listen to the second verse, the last 2 lines of that. The way they harmonize their voices together is so, I don't know how you beautiful, amazing, makes the hair stand up on the back of your neck. And maybe that's just me, but Whale and Wasp is an instrumental, which is, I don't know, it's almost like creepy sounding, like it's like really sad. It's like a finger-picked guitar interspersed with, I think, violin or cello. I'll probably say in the liner notes, I should have checked. Violin or cello or viola, I'm not sure. And then it has these kind of flourishes of electric guitar, like very, yeah. Again, I can't really describe it. It's not like a shredding. It's just like one note, like a bent note, like sounds like a siren almost, like a call from the depths of of a ghost or something. It really is a very atmospheric, creepy, but beautifully creepy song. Really, Wail and Wasp doesn't say what instruments. I'm sure it would say somewhere. Does it not say the instrumentalist is over here? Okay, Rebecca. Here we go. Violin. So it's just violin. Okay. Oh no, and cello. Rebecca Clemens Smith, violin. Justine Foy, viola. No, violoncello. And that says VIO. Am I showing this on the camera? No, I may. It says VIOLONCELLO. So they put violoncello. Is that a particular kind of instrument? A violoncello? We call it violoncello? Violoncello? Okay. Anyway, after Wail and Wasp, Don't Follow, that song with harmonica in it, is it? Yes, it is the one with harmonica. Or am I thinking of the other one? No, I'm pretty sure it is. And Swing on This, that's just, that's a pretty good song as well. But the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 songs from Rotten Apple through to Wail and Wasp are amazing. The Sap EP, fall out, is just 4 songs. Brother, which has got guest vocalists from Ann Wilson. I was trying to think, was it Ann or Nancy? From Heart. Ann Wilson, the vocalist from Heart. The 1970s rock band, female fronted, female guitarist. They had the Wilson sisters. And Got Me Wrong, that's a good song. Right Turn, that's the one that has Chris Cornell and Mark Arm from Mudhoney guest vocaling. And then Am I Inside again, Ann Wilson. Just a little bit of vocals on the chorus, but that's a cool song as well. I really like the vocal melody in the chorus. It sounds like really sad, which I guess is a kind of a mood we associate with Alan Chain's kind of melancholic, oppressive, depressing kind of music, which is I think it's kind of true. The music does have. Well, I'm really not good at describing this music, am I? I think everyone who's heard Alice in Chains knows what I'm talking about. That it's the songs they match a rainy Seattle day and heroin addiction, which are 2 things that we associate with that band. You know, they're a Seattle band, and Lane Staley, tragically, I guess you'd say, passed away from a drug overdose, and it lost, the prime years of the career of the band's career to drug addiction. And it's kind of, I guess you could say, well, what could have been, and they, imagine what they could, if he had been healthy through the 90s, if you read a history of the band, a kind of account of their career, it's just they couldn't move forward on things like touring and recording. Is because it was a constant issue, his substance abuse problems, and they certainly didn't achieve all they could have achieved, and they achieved a lot. They've sold multi-million, tens of millions of albums. They are one of the bands, if you say, alternative rock, early 90s alternative rock or grunge, let's say the big 4 of thrash metal we talk about, or the big 4 of grunge were obviously Nirvana, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains. Who would be the 4th? Pearl Jam, I guess. But when you start throwing Pearl Jam in there, the sound is, at least Soundgarden and Alice in Chains, you can associate their sounds together. Nirvana, I guess you can kind of, although I think they in some ways you can't. And Pearl Jam, again, I think they're off in another direction, but they were certainly the 4 most popular, successful bands of that period and of that movement. But yeah, Alice in Chains lost so much of their chance and their opportunity because of the drama of all that. but you know, things happen, I guess, how they happen, and that's part of their story. I guess part of the mythos of Alice in Chains is the tragedy and the loss of that guy's voice and that guy as a human, their, you know, their friend, their vocalist. And you think, well, you know, could have happened any other way. Things happen how they're supposed to happen, but regardless, it's sad. Because they did those, Jerry Cantrell and Lane Staley's voice. I get, you know, it's a bit cliche to say, everyone feels the same way, but they're really so beautifully unique, the way they go together, and so goddamn copied. You listen to some of this music and you think, Jesus, the amount of post grunge music and then just rock, you know, whatever exists still of straight ahead rock music nowadays and through the 2000s and things. It's so much of it is just ripped wholesale from Alice in Chains. The vocal affectations and style and the delivery, and it's they deserve every bit of praise they get for their influence, because it's massive, in my opinion. So yeah, double EP, not a common thing, a double EP, but it's two separate EPs. Obviously, it's not one EP with two CDs separately. But it classic releases, and as good as their albums, as good as Dirt and Facelift and Self-Titled. What do they call the one with the dog with three legs on it? Alice in Chains. Thank you for watching.